Let's talk about the 2016 NHL Draft. Did you get picked? Oh, it's a shame. I'm sorry. Sorry this video is so late. I was waiting for all the restricted free agent news to come in, all the qualifying offers, but the Leafs are leafing, so I can't wait. Speaking of Leafs, Austin Matthews. That's pretty neat. Leaf fans got to be happy about that. Their first overall pick since 1985. A center who can step into the lineup right away. Babcock said he sees him starting on the third line. That's very kind of you, Mike. He could end up as the team's #1 center by the end of the season. Or like Thanksgiving, the Canadian one or the American one. I don't know. Take your pick. Now, a lot of Leaf fans questioning the team and what they did in the other rounds. For example, they could have gone with a prolific scorer who was a guy who was a little smaller, someone who matches exactly who they would have drafted last year, like Alex DeBrincat, or Brindacat, shout out Dangle Navy. But they opted to not pick him and instead, Chicago, because of course Chicago. Like seriously, we see how up against the cap they are and we always go, man, how do the Blackhawks stay so good? That's how. They made a first-line winger out of Richard Panik. I think this kid's gonna be fine. But the Leafs instead this year drafted a few guys who maybe didn't get drafted in the previous year. They were a little older, maybe 19. They drafted a ton of guys who were 6'2" or larger, way larger. They got a goalie named Joseph Woll, and that's nice because they needed a goalie in this draft, although he wasn't one of the first goalies taken. And I've seen a lot of Leaf fans out there, the majority of them I think, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, hey, they know what they're doing, okay? They've been right in the past, right? And you know what? I think I would usually give this management group the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not gonna. Because I don't have to. You know what? I've been bitten putting my faith in the Leafs too many times in the past, and no, I'm not going to say it this time. They passed on guys I really wanted them to get. Abramov would have been really nice to get. DeBrincat, even Anatoly Golashev would have been nice to get in the later rounds, but I mean, I guess that's a mid-round guy. But in 2015, they passed on guys like Konechny, Merkley, Shillington, and everyone was like, hey, quantity, though. They need that, and they'll probably get quantity out of those picks, too. And hey, you know what? If they get on the ice, fantastic. I'll be the happiest one in the room, but in the meantime, I didn't like the picks all that much, and they're the Leafs. Let's stop babying these guys. If I could say one thing that's positive, I would say I watched the Marlies in the playoffs and I noticed two things. Holy smokes, they're really fast and really skilled, and wow, they're pretty small. They got bigger. And how about the Winnipeg Jets? Second overall, they get Patrick Laine, and that seemed to be in question for a while. And they also pick up Logan Stanley, the Jets adding two guys in the first round to a prospect pool that already looks like one of the better ones in the sport. Smaller market team, you definitely need to draft well, and the Jets have been. And the Canadian teams have sucked recently, and you saw so many of them really seem to dig their way out of it, or start to in this draft. Like the Oilers. Holy smokes, the Oilers, even when they don't win the lottery, they win the lottery! What were the odds the Blue Jackets would pick a center who's only played half a season at center ahead of Jesse Puljujarvi? By the way, award for biggest smile on draft day in all his pictures? Jesse Puljujarvi. I'd be smiling from ear to ear too. I don't even care that it's Edmonton. Oh my god, I get to play with Connor McDavid. I'm gonna score 30 goals in my freaking sleep. Oh my god, I'm so getting Stamkos money. But the Oilers' problem in recent memory, and the reason they were even able to pick Jesse Puljujarvi, is not because they're bad at picking guys in the first round, it's because of the other rounds, so we'll have to see how they did there down the line. And let's get back to Dubois for a second. I was surprised to see him go at 3, and I mean, it looks like he'll still be a good player. Columbus got a good player. But leave it to the Blue Jackets to just go, nope, we don't care what almost everybody else says, we're picking this guy. Not to mention, for a Finnish guy, Jarmo Kekalainen seems like allergic to them. Moving away from the Blue Jackets, speaking of teams I've been mean to this past season, the Vancouver Canucks. They draft Olli Juolevi, and oh my god, that's actually a pretty good pick. I really like that. Good job. They could definitely use a few more young defensemen in that organization, especially down the depth chart, who can maybe step into the lineup in a year or two. Looks like he's the guy. And the Canucks better be happy and better be sure with that pick, because that allowed the Calgary Flames to draft Matthew Tkachuk, another talented forward to add to their other talented forwards who may be getting a truckload of money by the time I'm done shooting this video. So they help solidify their future on an already strong but young team that just can't stop the puck. And they go out and they get Brian Elliot. Brilliant move by the Calgary Flames. Everyone seemed to think it was going to be James Reimer. It might still be, is the crazy thing. But ignoring all the ifs, let's just focus on what they got. Brian Elliot. This is a move that could honestly get the Flames into the playoffs like that. Here's how much it could change them. Detroit was a mediocre team in terms of save percentage, all right? They were dead middle of the pack, 15th in a league of 30 teams. They had a .910 save percentage. Calgary was a league worst 8-9-2! The Carolina Hurricanes were the second worst, and they were 9-0-2. Nobody was even in the same ballpark as the Calgary Flames last year when it came to beach ball stopping. They were the worst by miles. And they go out and they get an experienced goalie who has a history of very good stats. All-star appearances should solidify them just nice. Will they make the playoffs as a result? I'm not sure, but honestly, I might bet money on it. It was their major weakness, and they addressed it in a big way, and they might not be done yet. They win. At number 9, I like Mikhail Sergachev for the Montreal Canadiens, but that wasn't their biggest move of the weekend. No, it was trading PK Subban. No, that didn't happen. Don't be stupid. No, they got 2 second-rounders for Lars Eller, and they immediately traded away 2 second-rounders for Andrew Shaw. They basically, sort of, traded Lars Eller for Andrew Shaw. And they just signed Andrew Shaw to a 6-year, $3.9 million extension. If you told me Andrew Shaw made $3.9 million per season, I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can get on board with that. For 6 years, okay, I don't know. But, and I've talked about this a ton of times on the podcast, maybe that's just what, like, established second or third line NHL centers make now. Because I swear every time I see a second, third line NHL center get signed, I'm like, that's way too much money. Wait, I think they all just make too much money. Some kinds of players are just historically overpaid. If you have a right-handed defenseman for a kid, teach them. Keep them going. They're going to pay for your cottage one day. Can your kid take a face-off? Well, teach them how to take a face-off because they could be paying for your trips to Vegas. Oh my God, what if they play for Vegas? Well, there are times where Montreal seems like Vegas, and Andrew Shaw is from Bell Vegas, and now he's on the Montreal Canadiens. By the way, Habs fans who are hoping that Michel Therrien would be fired, they just acquired exactly the kind of player that Michel Therrien likes. I think you're stuck. And by the way, a lot of people unfairly comparing Andrew Shaw to Brendan Gallagher. Look, Shaw's a fine player, and he's a pesky player. I see what you're getting at. But put Shaw where Brendan Gallagher plays and see how it goes. Gallagher's like a legit goal scorer in this league. Shaw is fine, but he's not that. A few other notes. Alex Nylander going to the Buffalo Sabres. William Nylander's brother, I love it. Leaf fans like, why the heck would you love that? Dude, Matthews versus Eichel. William versus Alexander, Kadri versus O'Reilly, Riley versus Ristolainen, Marner versus Reinhart. Go down the list, bud. Then there's all these rumors that the Sabres might actually get Stamkos, and I'm like, that's kind of terrifying, but bring it on! Because as a Leaf fan, I would love to watch a rivalry that is about who is the best again, as opposed to who is the least worst. Maybe the winners of the first round, the Arizona Coyotes. Clayton Keller looked like a fine pick at number 7, and I can't believe Jacob Chychrun was still available. Oh, and Ottawa and New Jersey did that weird flip-flop from 11th to 12th, and Ottawa got Logan Brown. And all I could think was, okay, I hope you really like Logan Brown, because otherwise you just moved up for no good reason. Also, if you're in New Jersey, are you just fleecing Ottawa because you think there's no difference between Logan Brown and Michael McLeod? Do you like McLeod better? Do you think the difference between them is a third-round pick? What happened? Or were they just taking advantage of Dorian, a GM who is kind of new here? And by the way, earlier I mentioned Anatoly Golashev. He went in the 4th round, 95th overall to the New York Islanders, and I'm like, of course the Islanders. The Islanders like their high-reward picks. Not necessarily high-risk, high-reward, but in this case, high reward. Josh Hosang was one of those picks. Kirill Kabanov was one of those picks, if I remember correctly, and now you got this guy. And he's a few years further along in his development than others. I wonder how soon he joins the Islanders. Or if he joins them at all, which is maybe why he dropped to the 4th round. And last but not least, we got to give a shout out to Philip Helt, 211th overall to the St. Louis Blues in the 7th round, the last player picked, which historically actually gives him a pretty good shot at being good. Steve, why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you talk about that? Well, because I didn't want this video to be 20 minutes, okay? So, what were some of your favorite parts of the weekend? Or maybe underrated parts? Why aren't more people talking about the Mark Pysyk for Dmitry Kulikov trade? Why aren't more people talking about Tyson Jost getting drafted in that emotional moment? It was beautiful. Who is not getting enough credit and who is getting too much? And who are you? Because I'd like to thank you for watching this video. So click like if you like this video, click subscribe if you really like it. Tell all your friends, answer all those questions in the comment box because I love when you scream at me. Also at _Steve_Dangle if you want to do that on the Twitter. And I will see you, I'm not going to make another video until the 2017 draft. 1 year.